Hey, everybody. Great to be here. Thank you, Matthias. Yes, I have a long Polish last name. I won't take you through how to spell it. It's pretty much phonetic, except when you're in the US, it's Kropidlowski. And then when I come over here, they say Mr. Kropidlowski. So somewhere there's an F and some different pronunciation in there. I still don't know how to do it correctly, so I just go with the US version. So why are we here today? We're super excited to bring all the great content that we brought together at our live customer conference, our user conference. It's not just for customers, it's for prospects. We have lots of analysts there, partners there, and so on. And that happens every year in the April-May timeframe in Orlando. That's at least where we've done it the last 3 years. We're looking at other locations for next year. But one of the things we wanted to make sure we did this year is we took all this great information on a city tour or on the road. So last week we started in San Francisco last Tuesday. Then we were in Tokyo on Tuesday. We had 105 people in the room there in Tokyo, both from Japan and South Korea. And then today, you guys are our third stop in London. So thank you all for taking the time to be here. It's really wonderful that you took the time. And I really feel like there's a hunger around generative AI. As Harry was saying, the fast pace, we know it better than anyone. As our head of brand, and Harry has both the design, look and feel of our website, and then the people who implement and execute on all of those designs. We are moving at such a fast pace because the market is moving at such a fast pace. And it's not just us as a AI technology vendor, you guys feel it too. Right? There's pressure from your board or your C-suite or somebody saying, hey, we know we should be leveraging this technology, but how do we do it safely, securely, at scale? Do we go with 12 different vendors, 44 different vendors, try and standardize with the vendor? So these are all things that we'll talk about today. And as you see in the agenda here, I'll start with just some, our point of view on how you can reimagine business, reimagine work, reimagine your service strategies, reimagine process automation across your company. So I'll start with some of that and our point of view on that. Then we've got Nick from BCG who's going to share some information. Part of it is on that QR code, that white paper that was jointly done by BCG and Kore.ai just in May. So lots of great information there. He'll recap that for you. Then we have accelerating value creation. So Ungmang he's our VP Sales Engineering. He'll take you through some presentation with some use cases and how, a lot of companies, either by vertical or by use case, business process are looking at things. Then we'll have a break, and then we come back for a full afternoon of customer stories, right? So we've got first a customer spotlight and then 2 panels. And I won't steal all the thunder from those, but we've got those coming. And then we'll have some closing remarks. And then as Matthias said, we'll get together and have some more conversations, some more networking over drinks and canapes and maybe some dinner as well. So that's the agenda for today. Does anyone need anything at this point? Does everyone know where to find restrooms? Restrooms are right out near the elevators out here in the front. So easy to find. Obviously, you have lots of refreshments, so help yourself in the back of the room. I didn't mean to hit, I forgot. I did this at the event itself. So what I wanted to do was kick off really quickly a video to set the tone for the day, but just to, again, talk about how AI is impacting all of us, both personally and in business.
It's the first technology that has no limit.
An AI app to look over my shoulder, and it can spot a very subtle polyp, even before I do.
Real or AI generated? So, no, okay, that one was real, but the fact that you thought about it.
good. Well, hopefully, if you had any afternoon nap time planned for this event, you've woken up, right? Wide awake with all the sound. All right, excellent. So, like I said before, what we're going to be talking about today is how you can reimagine business, what you're doing in your business, either for your employees, your customers, or just within the processes across your organization, and how you can reimagine that with AI. I think it goes probably without saying, and I'll step up here maybe for a second. It goes without saying, we've never seen this pace of change, right? The velocity of the agentic AI market is just off the charts. And what do I mean by that? Right? If you think about things over time, like how long it took the internet to come around, and then mobile phones started, right? And it took years and years and years to get from, just text messaging to iPhones to screens, and then it being really your main computer that you use every day, right? That took years and years and years, if not decades. This has just exploded, and we see here back in November of 2022 when ChatGPT sprung on the scene and really democratized this for everybody. And what we were talking about at that time, ChatGPT 3 and 4 and so on, all the way through 2024, it was really interesting use cases about LLMs and helping you generate content or search for answers and bring back the actual answer. Right? So it was, all these flash bulbs went off, or light bulbs went off in people's heads saying, these are things that I couldn't do before, and if I couldn't do it very easily. It just opened up all of these use cases. Now today, where are we at? We're getting to the first autonomous AI agents. What does that mean? Agentic applications, meaning there's some autonomy. So they reason, they make decisions, they think on their own, and then kick off another AI agent so they can orchestrate together, and we are even getting to this level of autonomy. So you see it's going there for self-improving agents, working on themselves, to fully autonomous. That's where we're going, and the speed at which we're moving this quickly, it's important for all of us to understand how we can leverage this technology and when is the best use, the best time to use some of these things. Autonomy or agentic agents may not be the answer for everything, but in other cases, in other use cases, it could be. So, and don't take my word for it, right? Pick your analyst, pick your influencer. They're all saying the same thing. This is one I picked from Gartner, who said by 2028, 95% of organizations will have integrated generative AI into their daily operations, up from 15% today. So somewhere, right, we'll find out in 2028 if we really do get to Gartner's prediction. But even if it went to 85% or 75%, that's a huge jump, right? And we all need to be prepared for that and how it's going to have an impact in our business. And a lot of times it means we need to start now, otherwise we'll be left behind. It's not easy though, right? And so most companies are still lagging behind. So a lot of people spent 2023 and 2024 in experimentation, right? Testing, trying things out, and so on. And some have got into the realizing value, that last stage at 25%. But this is a maturity curve that BCG put out. There's others out there. But again, this is one way to look at it, where about 25% have yet to unlock any value. They're either stuck in experimentation, haven't deployed anything. 50% have done some, and 25% have them integral either in departments or processes across the organization and are seeing real value. And we'll talk a little bit about what kind of value, where the value comes from. But there's still naturally some challenges that exist. And even so, remember when everyone was trying to break? I was talking to someone else here earlier today about everyone was trying, when ChatGPT 3 and OpenAI came out with other models, and everyone was trying to break them. And then Bard had some trouble, which is now Gemini, right? And all those things because of the hallucinations. A lot of that has changed, right? The things that people cared about in 23, 24 are no longer, they've figured out, right, how to correct some of those things. But there's other things, right? The implementation resource intensity, meaning the intensity on your resources. Do you have enough people to move or to build all of these things that the business is asking for, either on the operation side or on the business side? You have data integration needs. sometimes very complex. You have structured, unstructured data. Where does it live? Is it sitting in Salesforce? Is it sitting in your Oracle or somewhere else? And then you have to bring it all together and get granted access and so on. Balancing scalability with speed, right? Sometimes you want to move fast, but you're not able to scale it correctly or have it operate correctly. The enterprise governance will never go away, right, for banking, for healthcare. But I don't care if you're retail or anybody else, right? There's certain governance, certain things you have to do to make sure that you're not giving incorrect information or providing poor service experiences. And then finally, intelligent contextual orchestration. So how do you orchestrate all of these contextually so that everything feels cohesive and brought together? And that leads to some anxiety. Right? These are things that we often hear from our customers, like, is Agentic AI, which is the autonomy piece, mature enough to trust with my mission critical use cases? Or another one here, are we equipped to integrate upcoming AI governance and regulatory frameworks? There will always be things that you will think about, but I think these, if you think back to computers and allowing computers to do certain things versus humans to do things, we got over that in time. I'm sure that will happen here as well, but we just have to have more runtime, more success before we trust some of the things here. And of course, autonomy scares a lot of people, especially in highly regulated industries. So the assumption is, why are we all here though? The assumption is that AI delivers automation and cost reduction, and that we've been talking about, and that's true, it does. It's not the only thing it does, right? It can produce soft ROI, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But the reason we're here is because there's so much value that can be derived either in dollars or automation and productivity. That's why everybody's looking at this in their business. And these numbers are real. These are pulled from a lot of different sources, brought together, and these are the averages that we pulled together based on research that we did. But 40% operational savings, but where in the operations is that coming from? From labor savings, about 45% and 70% fewer errors. Also process automation, so being able to make faster decisions. It allows you also to, faster time to market, so you can deploy things faster, quicker. Revenue increases either because of new products or customer repurchase value, right? Or they're telling others that you should buy your product or your goods or your services. And then finally, performance gains. Happier customers, for sure. When we think about the contact center market, and I spent a long time in the contact center market, worked for Rockwell Automation, which is the first ACD, and then Concerto, and then with Aspect. This idea of giving the human agents an assistant, right? So you have customers have an assistant and the human agents have an assistant. And no matter where they go or if it even gets to the human agent, there's an assistant to help the whole time. That whole process for both the customer and for the agent is greatly improved because, again, the satisfaction level is high. There's an assistant, an AI agent, helping them through whatever the use case and service inquiry is about. And then there's so much around productivity gain. Right? If you can cut, 5, 10, 30 seconds, a minute off a call, right? That adds up for a lot of companies with large contact centers to millions of dollars. Or if I'm a claims processor at an insurance company, or if I'm going through a mortgage process and you automate either between the customer and the employee, all of these things that used to be laborious, I have to do this and this and this, and it was sequential. Now you have a productivity gain that's huge, and things can move more quickly in underwriting or in claims, processes. So that is there, and that's the assumption, and that's all true, right? But we think the opportunity is really, the benefit is in growth for companies. So it's going to allow you to do so much more than you could before, mainly because of productivity, and you'll be able to do, as a company, more things than you could do them before, more quickly, faster, and with a better experience for your employees and or your customers, right? And then also the ability to move at the speed of business, right? What does that mean? Everybody's got a speed of business, right? Some are moving faster than others, but it's really up to you, right, how fast your business needs to move. I think the key here is just like other disruptive technologies that have come around before, if you're not looking at these things, you don't want to end up like the Blockbuster or the Kodak that you didn't really see, film going away and digital cards coming, right, to store all your photos on. That won't happen anytime soon. And boom, all of a sudden Kodak just, became almost non-existent. Or Netflix took over, what used to be people going to get DVDs or VHS tapes, if anyone remembers those. I'm dating myself. So the real benefit here is growth and the speed of business. And, where this is going is that your AI agents are your new digital workforce. So they'll have greater autonomous decision-making capabilities, executing complex tasks more and more, right? And if you look at this here in this chart, this is low autonomy versus high autonomy on the other end. So today, we're definitely doing all of this, right? Where we have an automated sequence of tasks that we've pre-configured by humans. These are like traditional chatbots, even before, conversational AI chatbots, where it was a question-answer pair, it went back and forth, but it really wasn't autonomous. It was a human that said, this is the interaction, how it should go 95% of the time, so let's just go with that. Versus then we got AI assistants, which is in the middle, so these chatbots, co-pilots, where LLMs and chatbots, that's the conversational assistants, but it can go off in any direction. A traditional IVR or a traditional self-service experience was kind of like a tree where you started here and you said, I want to get my account balance. Then you had to go down 3 different steps and say checking, savings, and whatever. It was static, and then you couldn't really get back. Today, in this section with the AI assistants, I could say to my bank, I need to transfer 50 pounds. I'm in the UK. 50 pounds to my nephew Ryan. I want to pay my Vodafone bill. I want to, transfer funds from checking to savings, and I'd like to know what interest rates are on an auto loan. And you could do that all in one question, and it would systematically take care of each one of those things for you without you having to jump in the mobile app or on your laptop to different screens on your banking app, right? It would be much more efficient. But again, it's making decisions, going off and doing this on behalf of you. So it's doing that. Versus AI agents, where we're getting to is full autonomy, where with agentic applications, they can understand, reason, plan. And so you can almost solve for any situation because it's dynamic, right? It doesn't break at a certain point and it says, I don't know what to do. Now, it still may happen depending on the use case, but more and more, these complex use cases are being, you have multiple agents that all have different tasks. They can be orchestrated, and they can all work together, sort of like a football team, right, or anybody, so that they're all getting to a common goal. So a big statement here, AI agents will be your largest employee cohort in 2023. And I know most of us aren't thinking about this, but what do we mean by that? I mean, you have to start now because this is what a lot of companies are looking for. So this is what it will look like, right? Where you have your C-suite and your different groups within the organization. You have your human employees that are here, but then you're going to have all of these AI agents. And how are you going to orchestrate them so that they're helping all of the human agents, right? To do things more efficiently, be more productive, be smarter, right? Increase their satisfaction. And humans, right, is an employee, but this also goes for your customers as well, right? So you have a lot of AI agents helping them through different service scenarios, purchasing scenarios, whatever it is in there. But when you think about this, right, your human employees and then all of your AI agents, could be tens of thousands in any organization at some point, right? So how do you orchestrate all of these agents? It creates some additional things to think about, right? Because if every vendor says, oh, we do AI agents, right? If you have 40 different vendors, you got 40 different things to keep track of. And then how do you understand if they're working together, if at all, or they're not. And then how effective are they? Then you got 40 different vendors. If you have 100 different vendors, imagine how crazy it gets, and some might have more than that. So as we think about this, we like to think about, embed AI where the value is. And as I mentioned at the top, we think about this in terms of work, service, and process. So work is all about streamlining internal workflows for your employees, right, to help them be smarter, more effective, right, do things faster, quicker. It's not to make them necessarily do more work, but it gets rid of the tedious work, right? The copying and pasting, the looking for information, all those sorts of things, and that sits right on their desktop. Reimagine service is all about elevating customer experiences, as I mentioned before. And then process automation, how do you automate knowledge or intensive tasks that kind of were able to be worked on before with RPA, rapid process automation, but often that kicked off one thing and then it stopped. And then a human had to say, okay, now kick off this one and kick off this one. Now you'll have the capability where these AI agents will be able to make these decisions, depending on how much autonomy you give them, to be able to go and do all that on your behalf and help in particular workflows for work or other scenarios. So work, like I said, it sits on their desktop. It gets you all the answers, things you want, takes actions for you. It can do things even like, schedule a meeting for me and 2 other people that I've listed, and it goes off and looks at calendars, does that. So that's pretty standard, and that's like a co-pilot and those type of things. But when you start doing things like, I need this information, or me as the CMO, I say, out of my marketing activities for trade shows that I'm doing this much, which ones produced, the most leads, or, what was my average acquisition cost? It just comes back with the answer versus printing reports, and then I have to go through and analyze and so on and figure out that information myself. I can continually get more and more granular with my questions. Then we have elevating service strategies. So instant answers. So this has been around for a while, right, through self-service and through chatbots. But then how do you help customers get the information they need 24 hours a day? Human agent assistants, how do you help them, right, so that they're more efficient and so on? And then this is the really interesting part. How can you learn from interactions the data? So both what's happening on the human and AI side, bring that together, and where that really becomes invincible is when you're able to optimize, your customer operations, either on the customer side or on your back end side, where you really take action then based on what's happening, and you can understand what's happening both on self-service and through live assistance. And then lastly, process, so improving that operational efficiency and outcomes. So this is all about workflow execution, right? Meaning workflow for specific job tasks, for example, or assembly line automation. It could be anything, right? And the AI agents are taking in information and then making next best decisions based on how you've built it and how it should be operating. Right? And the real-time context injection and grounding to make sure that it's not going off the rails, and contextual human in the loop is really important too. So, autonomy is great, it's the new buzz thing, but we're not saying that autonomy or, agentic AI agents running on their own is for every use case. But it is an interesting one, and it does help in a lot of regards. So this does create some chaos though, right? And as I mentioned earlier, you've got all of these vendors saying, oh, we do AI, we're agentic, we're everything, right? And so, how do we deal with this as organizations? You've got your hyperscalers, you've got your enterprise ecosystems like your sales operations tools, right? Your CRM, your Workday or Oracle where data is sitting. You've got your contact center vendors, right, for contact center as a service. You've got open source vendors. So how do you handle all of this? And a lot of companies are asking themselves, do I buy all of this from separate vendors? Do I standardize? Do I build my own? By the way, most that build their own, about 75% fail, and it takes literally a human army of developers to build your own. So Just like when people finally left and moved to the cloud and they said, I'm not going to continue to maintain my data center. It's too costly. I need too many people. There's too many risks, with security and data breaches and all these things. I'm going to turn it over to an AWS or Microsoft Azure or whoever it is, right? I think the same will happen here at some point, right? Because you can't, it's just too hard to maintain too many vendors and so on. And so it makes you think about that those AI agents in that one screen, that org chart that I showed you earlier. Think about it as your AI agent army, right? And then how are you going to manage them? So how do you give them their identity, right? And make sure that across platforms, they understand what their job tasks are and what they're identified to do. Are they able to discover one another, meaning discover and then be able to communicate with each other? Right? Discoverability is one thing, but then being able to interact with one another. What's the agent purpose? What roles and permissions do you give it, right? We don't want to give everything full autonomy. So what is its specific job role? And that's why it's okay to have hundreds or even thousands of AI agents, because they have just one task or a few tasks rather than trying to boil the ocean with one AI agent that should do everything. It's not. There's different LLMs and there's different tools that you use within the AI agents to make them the most efficient as possible. And some LLMs are better for summarization, as you know, versus analyzing versus content creation. So depending on the use case, you'll use different LLMs. And then finally, how do you orchestrate across all of these? That's the hard part, especially if you've got a lot of vendors. Well, of course, we have a view on this. And you'll hear more from BCG on this based on the research that we did together with them. But we really think it's important to think about an agent platform. And a platform from the standpoint of, through AI for work, for service, for process, you can get pre-built things. But a platform allows you to customize everything that you need to do, no matter what it's for, whatever the use case, whatever the industry, whatever you're trying to achieve as a business, but it allows you to do that on a single platform, and this is where you're gonna get a lot of benefit. One is, if it's no code and pro code, meaning it's easy for everyone to use for the most part, you don't need that army of developers, or that bottleneck that sometimes can be developers, because it democratizes and allows more people in the organization to build their own AI agents if that's a capability you want to give them. It also allows you to standardize. So this can increase your speed to market, because you're standardizing. You don't have to do it one way in one vendor and one way in another vendor, which takes time, and then they have to be able to communicate with each other. There's a choice of autonomy, where I was saying it could be low, or it could be high, or somewhere in between, but you get to choose and you don't have to stick with one or the other. Different use cases require different types of autonomy if you want to use it or not. And that allows you to maintain that control always. Then prompt libraries and templates, that also gives you speed to value, meaning you can draw on things that are already created for you. You don't have to start from scratch each time. And I remember when ChatGPT 3 came and then 4, and we were saying at the time, you can cut building a conversational AI agent or a chatbot experience. You can cut that by about 10 times. Today, it's probably 20, 30 times, so that was back in 2022 into 2023. And so these libraries and so on, so you used to have to say, my mobile device isn't working. Well, the first thing it had to say, well, is this a laptop? Is this an iPad, a tablet, a mobile phone? What is it? Now, when you build these things, it just assumes all those, and they're all built in. You don't have to define what a mobile device is anymore, because these libraries and templates continue to grow and sort of get more inclusive and have everything you need in it versus you having to define these things. And then lastly, a platform needs to be ecosystem agnostic. So giving you freedom of choice for your cloud provider, for where your data comes from, and all those sorts of things. So again, Nick will talk about this in the BCG report, but what we're finding is a single AI platform. They're really emerging as something that companies are looking at, where 73 have conducted a detailed assessment on platform solutions, and 84% are already exploring or transitioning towards a platform for their AI solutions. And that's, again, because of the standardization, I believe, and being able to keep control of all of those things. So we have a platform, imagine that. So our platform supports all of those use cases for work, service, and process. So it doesn't matter what you're working on. But the multi-agent orchestration, so giving the ability to collaborate all the AI agents contextually, share memory with each other, what they've learned, and then operate at different autonomy levels. Engineering tools, for example, accelerating AI development through Model Hub, Prompt Studio, Evaluation Studio. These all help you get there faster as you're building, these use cases or solutions for these use cases. Observability, giving deep visibility into agent performance. So you can very quickly understand what's not working, what's working. You can, have it either self-correct, right? Or you can say, wait for human interaction. So you get all that observability. Search and data AI, so the information retrieval, so with 100+ pre-built search connectors and so on. So when you're searching for things, already having those connectors to whatever it is, Salesforce, HubSpot, Oracle, Workday, whatever you're trying to integrate, and then being able for a full agentic RAG, so that's the advanced search capability and bringing back an answer versus, these might be some answers that might work for you. It's giving you the exact answers. And then AI safety, security, compliance, and governance, right? You need those guardrails, right? Regardless of your industry, there's some things that cross all industries like PCI, SOC 2, and those types of things. So obviously it needs to be compliant with that. So as we think about that, I was talking about those are the things on the top, and then having your choice of AI models. We don't care. Use whatever AI models you want from any vendor. Like I said earlier, there are different models that perform better than others or differently. So you might want to use different AI models depending on the use case. Channels, again, we don't care. It could be any channel, anywhere, on the consumer side, on the business side. That's all there. The data, again, as long as there's APIs to communicate and be able to do those dips and get to the data, again, we don't care. And then, of course, the cloud infrastructure. It could be Google, it could be AWS, any of them, including your own private cloud. And then this is a bigger picture, but how it all comes together then, as we think about it, we have our solutions around work, service, and process. You have a single platform that supports all of that, all those things we just talked about. You've got data and integrations, right, to support all that. We're agnostic to all that. And then a marketplace with pre-built industry solutions, templates, and tools, so you don't have to start from scratch all the time, right? Eventually, you might want to. We have customers, right, big banks like Citibank and others that we don't want any of your stuff. We want to build it all our own. And then we have others, like think about a more of a regional bank, or we have credit unions in the United States. I'm sure you have something similar where, right, it's a smaller organization. They don't have the IT resources, all the AI engineers, so they would leverage AI for banking, for example, to get a jump start on what they're trying to do or provide either for customers or within their organization. And then just saying what sets us apart, those offerings for sure, right, around work, process, and service. It's a very unique way to look at it. We use this because it really resonated with our customers. We talked to a lot of analysts like Gartner, Forrester, Everest, you name it, and they really respond well to it. So this is the way we've been talking about it for some time. It also, the multiple coding options, so making it more accessible to everybody in your organization. You don't have to have that bottleneck or that full army of engineers. It's fully agnostic. I talked about that. We don't care about the cloud, the channels, the data, where it comes from. The sophisticated AI agent platform, so providing that extensibility to build those AI agents and agentic applications, which brings the autonomy, if you want it, right? You don't have to use all of it, but it's there. And also is future-proof, right? So, we're looking at where the market's going, who's bringing what capabilities around AI, generative AI, whether it's LLM models, whatever it is, we're bringing that all into our platform. And we do this today with about 450 different deployments, customers, and so on. So we've been doing this for quite a while. So quite a while is 11 years, and right, we've got a lot of people in our product engineering team. Raj, if you guys know Raj Canero, our founder and CEO, when I hear him do some PR things for me and my team, or talking to analysts, when somebody asks him a question about what keeps them up at night, it's not about, do we have the right brand? Do we have the right look and feel, right? It's not all that. He says, do we have the best platform, the best product for our customers to automate anything with AI? And hence why we have such a large product and engineering team, because they're developing constantly and, like all of us, trying to keep up with the whole AI market. As new things come to market every week, we're bringing them into our platform, so we future-proof that for you. And our growth is great, but really it's all about, being able to support these customers and their use cases regardless of vertical. And we are also recognized as a leader across Analyst, so some great stuff there. And then finally, we get great ratings from our customers. Gartner Peer Insights at 4.7 and G2 Crowd. So that's a little bit about us. That's where we see the market going. That's how we're responding to the market. Any questions or anything that popped out at you?